This week in Scratch, we're going to create the game, The World's Hardest Game. So here is the traditional version of the game, and you're the red guy here, and you have to go through, and the blue little dots here or circles are going across the screen, and you have to get through, and if you can get through, you win the game, and you get over here. If they hit you, you go back to the beginning. So what we're going to do is we're going to create our own version of this in Scratch. Now, I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to do it. I'll show you how to do the code. But I would prefer it if your game looks different than mine. You could try to make it look like this if you want. You could make a little maze like this, however you want to do it. I'll show you how I do it, and I'll show you the code. And then you can put your own spin on it. So that's what I prefer. I prefer the students to put their own spin on it and to make their own game. So please make it a little different than me. So here you have the backdrop. You can pick the backdrop, whatever you like to do. I'll just click a baseball field. If you want to change the size of the cat or the cat sprite, you could just make this, like 80 instead of, 100. Now notice if you make it smaller, it's going to be easier to get by. If it's bigger, it makes it harder to get by. So I want the cat to go back and forth, right? You'll see how these blue things are going back and forth. I want the cat to go back and forth. So what we're going to do is, let me move my screen over so you could see. Events. When the flag's clicked, what do I want to do when the flag's clicked? Well, I want to make it into a loop. So I'll do a forever loop. Okay, so just saying code.org, we had repeat, 7 times, repeat loop. Here we have forever, because notice in this game it's going back and forth forever, right? So what do we want them to do? We want to use motion, and we want to do glide. Okay, we're going to have 2 glides. Now you have to think about where do you want him to go. Okay, so I'm going to say I want him to glide 1 second to, let's say I want him to go over here. Now what does it say? It says 203x negative 26y. So I'm going to say 203x x and negative 26y. Negative 26y. So that's the coordinate plane. X is this way, y is up and down. Negative x is to the left, positive x is to the right. Negative y is down, positive y is up. So you just figure out what spot you want him to go to. So I want him to glide 1 second over here, and then I want him to come back this way. So this way will be negative 25y, and what does it say? Negative 162. So I'll make this negative 162. Now when I click the flag, the cat's going back and forth. Now I could make this harder or easier. If I wanted to make this go faster, I could make this 0.5 seconds. Now he's going like that. If I wanted to make it slower, I can make it 2 seconds, right? So that's how you make a game harder or easier, by changing the numbers, okay? Now I remember in the past there were kids, what they would do is they would also have it going diagonally, right? So you just would change the numbers. If I wanted him to start here, on the top, I would put these numbers in. I put this for the x, and I put this for the y. Notice the negative is important, because the negative lets you know how far it is. Negative x is over here, positive x over here, positive y is up here, negative y is up here. So now you have the cat going back and forth, okay? So now let's create another character. So we'll create another one. Let's see what else we could. Maybe we'll put an apple in there. Put an apple. You put an apple, bear, whatever you want to do. Now I'll give you a trick to make it a little easier. You take your code like this, and you just drag it right into the apple. Okay. Now you have the apple has the same code. Now you don't want it to be exactly the same. Maybe you want the apple to be a little bit higher. So maybe we'll change this to negative 183.90. So we'll make this 90, and we'll make it negative 183. And then we want the apple to go to, where do we want him to go? About 90, 173. 173, and this could be 90 as well. Okay, so when you just take your code and you just drag it, when you just drag it to one of the sprites down there, you can then edit the code, so it's sort of easier when you get started. So now you have them both going across, and that makes it a little bit more difficult. And if you want, you could change this that this is both 0.5, that he's going faster and he goes consistent. So it's however you want to make your game, it's up to you. And see, I don't like that he's not going all the way, so I'm going to actually change this, and I'll make this go to, let's make this 173. Now he goes a little bit farther. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so now you have your cat going across, right? And the cat, when clicked, he's in the forever loop and he goes across the screen, and then you have your apple going across. Now what you need is a a main character. I want to use the term main character. I don't know what they would call it in this one. You basically need something like this, that you're going to control. So what you could do is, if you want to, you could draw something. You could draw in a little, box like this. You could draw a little bit of a thing, and you could, fill it in however you want to do it. You could do something like that. I'm not going to do that. Instead, what I'll do, if you don't like it, you could delete it. If you want to, you could try to make it look like this. The kids could do that. But instead of that, just for ease, I'm going to go back here to code. Go over here. I'm going to choose. I'll just choose the ball. And if you don't like the ball, you can go to costumes and you could choose one of these other ones instead. So maybe I'll make them look green instead. Okay, so now you got the green one. So what do we want the ball to do? Now notice in this game, it's consistent. You always start at this location, right? When you have a game, you always start in the same location. They don't have you like sometimes you're starting here and sometimes here. It's consistent. So you have to get through the maze, right? And if you don't do a good job, let me have them hit me. If it hits me, I go back to the same start. So we want to do the same thing with the ball. We want to make the ball consistent. We want to say events. When the flag's clicked, we want the ball to go to. Where do we want him to go to? We want him to go to, how about here? How about -4, and then -153. So you just copy the numbers that are on the -153. Okay. So now, even if the ball's up here, I click the flag, he goes down here when he starts the game. Okay, now what do we want to do? We want to control the ball. Same way when we control the other game, we use the arrows, right? Same thing here. We go to events, and we're going to say when the up arrow is pressed. When the up arrow is pressed, and we go to motion, and when the up arrow is pressed, we're going to point in direction up. When the up arrow is pressed, we want him to look up, right? We want him to point up, and we want him to move 10 steps. Now, if you made this 20 steps, he would move more. If you make it 5 steps, he moves less. So you have your up arrow now, and I'm going to click duplicate, and then I'm going to make this the down arrow. Right? So I just right-click duplicate. Now when the down arrow is pressed, I want him to go down. Right? I want him to down 180, and the same thing. And now I do right-click, and I duplicate. So now I have up, down. Now I need right. When the right arrow is pressed, I want him to go to the right. Move 10 steps, duplicate, and I go to the left, and I make this when the left arrow, what do you want to do when the left arrow is pressed? I want him to go to the left, okay? So sometimes children get confused. Make sure this says -90 and this says 90, and this is 0 and 180, because you want him going in the right direction. And 10 steps, okay? So let's take a look at this. Now when I click the flag, the ball goes here, and he goes right. When I click the right arrow, left. When I click the left arrow, he goes up, and he goes down, okay? And when I click the flag, he goes right back to the beginning. Now, there's one thing that we're missing in the game, right? So far, it's looking so good, right? We have a nice little game here, but we're missing a few things here, okay? Here's what we're missing. I can get through the maze quite easily, right? In the other game, what happens in the other game here? When the thing hits you, you got to go back to the beginning, right? They put you right back to the beginning. So I got to have that hit. I got to set that up so that this guy goes back to the beginning when he's hit. So here's how we're going to do that. We're going to say a flag event when clicked, and notice that it matches the color, right? So if I want this when clicked flag, it's under events, right? See, it matches the color. Motion, these are blue, right? So you see the blocks, they match the color of the thing on the side here, on the tab on the side. So I want to make it that when the ball hits the cat, it goes right back to the ball goes back to the beginning. So here's how I'm doing: when clicked, and a forever loop, because we don't want it to happen just one time. We want to do a forever loop, forever. Okay, so we will always want this to happen when we're playing our game. If touching, which that's sensing. If touching what? If touching sprite 1. Now sprite 1 is the cat. Okay, see it says sprite 1 here? Sprite 1 is the cat. If it's touching the cat, what do I want it to do? I want it to go back to the beginning, and that's this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out, control, actually I don't want to confuse the kids. I'll just do it again for motion. Go to -4, and they put it in there for me, so I was lucky there. So now when I click the flag, if I go up and the cat hits me, he goes right back to the beginning. Okay, because we have our code. If he's touching the cat, go back to the beginning. Now, what about the apple? Okay, now let me just make this a little smaller here, so we have more space. Now I'm going to right-click, duplicate. And I'm going to do this now. If touching the apple, same thing. Now, if he touches the apple, let me see if I can get past it. Now, if the apple gets me up, he goes right back to the beginning. Okay, so now we have a little game going here, right? It's sort of like the world's hardest game. And this is a conditional. If it touches the apple, go back to the beginning. If it touches the sprite, go back to the beginning. So what are some other things we can add? Well, we should add a target at the end, right? So let's add a check mark. I add a check mark here. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll put my check mark right over here at the exit. And you put it wherever you want. I'll make this bigger for everyone to see. I'll make the check mark, maybe I'll make that 80. I'll make the check mark maybe over here, however you want to do it. It's your game. And now I'm going to say, well, what do you want to happen with the check mark here, right? What I want to do is I'm going to look at the code for the check mark, right? So now I'm on check mark. What I'm going to say for the check mark is events, when clicked, okay? And again, forever, say forever, and a conditional if then. Okay, conditional if then, and sensing, touching. If touching the ball, what I want to happen if he touches the ball, I'm going to say you win. For 2 seconds, I'll say you win. Okay, so now we have a game set up that if it's touching, if the ball touches the apple, the cat, it goes back to the beginning. But if the ball touches the check mark, it says you win. And, if you want to get it fancy here, you could put sound in there too. Sometimes kids will do that. You could play, you could add different sounds in here, whichever you want to do. You go down here and you could search for a different sound if you want, maybe like this. And then, you could put that in. You could say, if it's touching it, say you win, and then play a sound if that's something you want to do. So now this game should work. Okay, so let's take a look. Let me see if I can get through this here. This one had a little bit of a glitch where you can go to the side, so you could fix that if you wanted to by changing the number. So here it says you win. Okay, now if you want to fix that again for the apple, what you would do is you just make this go farther away. Okay, so that's the basics of the game. There's one last thing I'll show you if you want to just add something a little more pizzazz. Somebody did this in the past. Let's say you wanted to add in a bat. You add a bat in here, right? So now you have a bat. What you could do is you could say events, when clicked, then control, we're going to maybe wait 1 second or half a second, whatever you want to do. And then you're going to do forever. And you're going to say show, looks. Where's show? Show. And then later we'll use hide. Show. And then you're going to wait. And then you're going to hide. And you can make this half a second if you want to make it quicker. So now when I click flag, I got a bat. And make this maybe 0.8 seconds. Make this 1 second. So now I got the bat flashing around. If you want to do something like that, you can make this. Actually, what we'll do? We'll add another one in here. I'm sorry, this wasn't in the loop. That's why it wasn't the loop wasn't correctly done. Let's go. Now it should work. And you click the flag. So now you got your bat, appearing and disappearing. So you could also make that in there, and then you could say over here, when the ball, if touching bat, go back to the beginning. Okay, so that's something that you could add as well. So that's our game, our version of the world's hardest game. Please take a photo of all of your sprites at the end so I could see it. So please take a photo of this sprite, and this sprite, and this sprite, and this sprite. Please take a photo of all your sprites so I could see your work when you are done.